In a busy German restaurant on an ordinary evening that slowly turned extraordinary, a small accident became the center of a much larger human story, revealing not only how people react under pressure but also how deeply culture, professionalism, dignity, and empathy are woven into everyday life in Germany. The restaurant was located in a mid-sized German city. Not a tourist-heavy place, but not entirely unknown either. A place where locals came after work to eat, talk, and relax. The atmosphere was calm, clean, and orderly, as many German restaurants are, with neatly arranged wooden tables, soft warm lighting, and the quiet background. Sound of cutlery touching plates and low conversations flowing steadily like a river. Efficiency was visible everywhere, from the punctual service to the clear menu layout and the well-trained staff moving confidently between tables. The girl waiter, young and relatively new to the job, had started her shift with focus and determination. In Germany, restaurant work is taken seriously, even in casual dining. Training emphasizes precision, responsibility, and respect for guests. She had already served several tables without issue, carefully balancing plates, remembering orders, and maintaining polite eye contact. However, as the evening progressed, the restaurant became busier. Orders piled up, the kitchen bell rang frequently, and the narrow path between tables filled with movement. Despite this, she tried to maintain her composure, because professionalism is expected, and mistakes are not easily forgiven in one's own mind, even if customers might be understanding. The guest involved in the incident was seated at a corner table, a middle-aged man accompanied by his partner. They were well-dressed, calm, and clearly enjoying their evening. Their order was typical of the region, a hot main dish served with sauce, something that required careful handling. When the waiter approached the table, carrying the tray, a small but critical chain of events unfolded. Another staff member passed slightly too close. A chair leg was not fully tucked in, and for a brief second, her balance shifted. In that moment, time seemed to slow down. The tray tilted, her hands reacted instinctively, but gravity won. The plate slipped, and the food fell directly onto the guest, spilling sauce onto his jacket and trousers. The sound of the plate hitting, the sudden silence in the restaurant, and the visible shock on the waiter's face created an intense moment. Her eyes widened, her breath caught, and her face turned pale. In German work culture, especially in service, responsibility is deeply internalized. She immediately realized the seriousness of what had happened. Without hesitation, she apologized. Not once, but repeatedly, in a clear and sincere voice. Her apology was not dramatic or exaggerated, but deeply earnest, reflecting a cultural norm where taking responsibility is more important than making excuses. The guest himself froze for a second, feeling the warmth of the food and the discomfort of being suddenly covered in it. But what happened next surprised many people watching. Instead of shouting, insulting, or reacting aggressively, which sometimes happens in stressful public situations, he took a deep breath. In Germany, public emotional outbursts are often frowned upon, and self-control is valued. He looked at the waiter, saw her genuine distress, and responded calmly. He acknowledged that it was an accident, though the inconvenience and damage were obvious. This reaction did not mean he was unconcerned. Rather, it showed restraint and an understanding that accidents are part of human life. The waiter quickly brought napkins and towels, trying to help clean the situation. Her hands were slightly shaking, not because of fear of punishment alone, but because she felt she had failed in her duty. In Germany, work is often tied closely to personal pride. Making a mistake, especially one that affects another person directly, can feel deeply personal. Her manager was informed immediately. The manager approached the table with a composed but serious demeanor, another reflection of German professionalism. He apologized formally, assessed the damage, and assured the guest that the restaurant would take full responsibility. What followed was not just a customer service response but a demonstration of how systems and values operate in Germany. The manager offered to pay for dry cleaning, replace the damaged clothing if necessary, and of course cancel the entire bill for the table. There was no argument, no attempt to minimize the incident. Accountability was clear and direct. This approach often surprises people from cultures where blame shifting or negotiation is common. In this case, the restaurant did not wait for the guest to demand compensation. It was offered immediately. Meanwhile, the waiter stood nearby, still visibly upset. In German workplaces, especially structured ones, employees are expected to maintain professionalism even after mistakes. But managers are also trained to support staff rather than publicly humiliate them. The manager spoke to her quietly, not in front of guests, reassuring her that accidents can happen and that the priority was resolving the situation respectfully. This moment revealed another side of German work culture. While standards are high, Fairness and dignity are also important. The guests around the restaurant gradually returned to their conversations, but the atmosphere had subtly changed. People had witnessed something human, something real. Some guests exchanged understanding glances, others nodded slightly, as if silently approving how the situation was handled. In many German social settings, observing how people deal with mistakes matters more than the mistake itself. Calm, responsibility, and respect restore trust. The guest whose clothes were ruined, eventually, went to the restroom to clean himself further. When he returned, he even spoke kindly to the waiter, telling her not to worry too much. This was not forced politeness, but a recognition of shared humanity. In Germany, while rules and order are important, there is also a strong belief in fairness and proportional response. He understood that anger would not undo what happened. From the waiter's perspective, the incident stayed with her long after the shift ended. German training systems often include reflection after mistakes. She replayed the moment in her mind, thinking about what she could have done differently, how she could be more aware of her surroundings, how she could improve her balance and positioning. This self-reflection is common and encouraged. Mistakes are seen as learning opportunities, but only if they are taken seriously. The restaurant itself likely documented the incident, as German businesses tend to keep records, especially when compensation is involved. Insurance systems are well developed, and such accidents are usually covered. This practical aspect ensured that the emotional weight of the situation did not turn into a financial disaster for either the guest or the employee. On a deeper level, this incident illustrated how German society often balances structure with humanity. The clear procedures for handling accidents, the immediate assumption of responsibility, and the calm reactions all reflected a culture that values predictability and trust. People expect that if something goes wrong, there is a system to deal with it fairly. This expectation reduces chaos and emotional escalation. For the waiter, the experience was painful but formative. She learned not only about physical coordination, but also about emotional resilience. She learned that while perfection is ideal, it is not always possible, and that honesty and responsibility can repair even embarrassing situations. For the guest, the incident became a story not about ruined clothes, but about how a stranger treated him with respect and sincerity. For the restaurant, it reinforced the importance of training, space management, and staff support. In the days that followed, life returned to normal. The restaurant continued to operate. The waiter continued her job with renewed caution, and the guest likely told friends about the incident, not as a complaint but as an example of good service recovery. Such stories quietly shape reputations in Germany, where word of mouth and trust carry significant weight. Now, let me ask you, if you were in that situation, if the order had been dropped on you, what would you have done? Would you have reacted with anger, or would you have chosen forgiveness? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your response says a lot about who you are. If you enjoyed this story, if it made you think or feel something, please like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel for more real-life stories, meaningful moments, and deep human experiences. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.